Do you get to start at 84,000?
No.
No, the median means the person that's in the middle is getting paid that. You know, when you start, it's probably a $45,000, $50,000 a year job, maybe a little more, depending on what kind of company you get into. But as you learn and grow and develop those skills, you get to make some money. One of the more important things here, the number of jobs in 2016 was 296,000 people had a financial analyst job.
Wow.
Right? And then it's scheduled to grow at 11%, faster than average. So if you said, I want to go be a farm manager, I could put you in contact with my brother. Like, he runs about 5,000 acres in southeastern Colorado. Nobody wants to do that job. And instead of a positive 11%, it's like a negative 3 or 5%. So if you were saying, I really have this passion for being a farm manager, I'd say, okay, like that's good. Maybe we could look at organic farming over some of the other types of farming where you might be able to make a little bit more money. But looking at what kind of competition that you have and what's the growth trajectory for that skill set. Right? If it's God's calling, by all means, go do it. I'm not trying to discourage you from being a farmer. Anybody want to be a farmer? Has anybody even considered being a farmer?
Yes.
Awesome. What would you like to farm?
Sheep.
Sheep. Awesome. Fantastic. That would be a lot of fun, I think. And then you could be the cake.
The what?
Maybe it's a bad Bible reference. Yeah. So what about a career in human resources? Like we were talking about marketing earlier, right? Human resources, all large companies have somebody to manage their benefits, manage the payroll, deal with employee relations when one person doesn't like the perfume of another person in the workplace. It happens.
They don't like their political views.
Don't like their political views? Oh, that's...
Get really hairy at work.
That's right.
Can you put in a transfer?
I actually love talking about religion and politics and I mean all the things you're not supposed to talk about.
Me too.
Amen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in human resources as a specialist, the median income is $60,000. There's 547,000 of those jobs. A lot more than the financial analysts, right? And it's growing at 7%. So they were expecting between 2016 and 2026 that they would add another 38,900 jobs for human resource specialists. Right? So as you're looking at potential careers, looking into college, and then looking into the rest of your life, you know, there are certain areas that pay better than others. And if it's an area where you get to use those skills, gifts, and abilities, I'm all for it. Does anybody have questions on careers?
So how can we use this information? So what we've talked about budgeting, we talked about, you know, figuring out how much money we're going to have left. We're looking at this. How do you guys think we can use this information?
Wisely.
What's that?
You can use it wisely.
Wisely.
Running a restaurant.
Running a restaurant? Absolutely.
Well, you know what I'm thinking, gang, is in the next couple years, you're going to be looking at what school to go to. Because many of you, not everybody, and I'm a big advocate that not everyone should go to college, but there's probably half of you will go to college. And you'll be looking at some big tuition bills, and it's just monopoly money, right?
No, it's not.
Whatever. You know, what does 20,000 really mean, right?
When you're gonna make 35 when you get out of college. I mean, that's how kids think today.
So what Justin is sharing with us is you can look, as Cindy's saying, you know, how much are you going to make, and you can kind of do a practice budget. You know, how much money am I going to have left over, and how many lifetimes is it going to take me to pay this off, right? So, you know, again, what we're talking about for you guys is getting out of the blocks. You know, we can do a lot of damage by the time we're 25 financially. We can really dig a hole.
And then you compound that with your spouse. If they did the same thing, now it's double.
Yeah.
And then maybe throw a kid or two in the mix, and maybe mom doesn't want to work because she wants to be home. It can get really crazy out there.
Yeah.
This is very important stuff that you're learning tonight.
So of all the high schoolers in the world, maybe 5% know about what Justin just told you. Gang, this is gold. So the thing is, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and any of you can go to it, and it's a great resource to go look at. If I'm going to spend 60 grand to get a college education in whatever, because I wanna do something, how long will it take me to pay it off?
Yeah. No, great points. Great points. And I love the entrepreneur, right? I'm gonna start a restaurant. The amazing thing about being an entrepreneur is that you have to do your marketing, you have to do your accounting, you have to do all of the things that big corporations have different departments to do, but that's all you in the beginning. And then as you start making money, you can hire people to do different things. In a restaurant, we're going to have a few people in the very beginning. So we're gonna have to save up some money before we open that restaurant. But there's other ways that you can earn money as an entrepreneur, and then those all lead into the next bigger business that you do. One of the guys that I worked for had a porta potty business. Nothing glamorous about that. Right? The construction guys are out there and they need a place to do some business for a couple minutes. So and then he would exchange those out, and then he sold that business to buy an automotive shop. Right? And now actually he just earns money off of the real estate, so he gets paid rent on the 2 buildings that he owns. So it's just really interesting. There's life experience out there. If we can tap into some of that wisdom, it goes a lot better for us. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs that I know all started doing something, learning how it works, and then going and doing it themselves. One friend of mine builds custom homes. He just does the framing, and then he does the whole house from beginning to end a couple times a year. How much do you think he makes on a single house? So just on the framing alone, it usually is like 125 to 150,000 in the total sale, right? He gets to make $30,000 every 6 to 8 weeks.
Wow.
Like,
Wow.
wow. That sounds pretty good. I'd like to do some of that, please.
Yeah, right on!
How do I sign up?
Learn to be a good carpenter.
Learn to be a good carpenter. And I'm telling you, like what Rick was just saying, that if only half of the room goes to college, there are a lot of people making great money as electricians and plumbers and framers because nobody wants to go into those trades right now. Right? But they are very valuable. So, being a financial consultant in these businesses, you get to see what everybody gets paid and how much money is left over. There's one company that's got like $500,000 left over at the end of the year after they paid themselves. Like, what do you do with that? Well, if you're in the Lord's kingdom like you should be, and you're investing in the kingdom as you should be, you can do some really fun stuff with God's blessing, right? It doesn't have. What if in that situation you said, "Hey, me and my family can live off of $100,000, and we could give away 400 every year"? Wouldn't that be fun? You could do some really fun stuff giving away $400,000 a year.
A lot of churches in Africa.
What's that? A lot of turkeys in Africa?
Churches in Africa.
Oh, churches in Africa. Interesting. Yes, I guess we can take them around Thanksgiving. That's right. There's a lot of churches and wells and amazing things that can happen. So as we roll into giving here, in Matthew 16, or Matthew 6, this is Jesus talking on the Sermon on the Mount, right? He says, "Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are healthy, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are unhealthy, your whole body will be full of darkness. If then the light within you is darkness, how great that darkness is." Or how great is that darkness? "No one can serve 2 masters. They will either hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money." Why do you guys think I would throw this in here?
Balance.
Balance?
Because tithing is incredibly important.
It is. Well, why is it important? Does God need my money?
No, he can move resources however he wants. It's it's more for you than it is for God.
Yeah.
It does say to test him on it. So one thing he actually says you can test him in.
Testament it, yep, that's right. Malachi 3:10. Anything else? There's a couple of things that come to mind that Dave Ramsey gives it. Or do you have one?
I was going to say, whenever you put money as an importance, it then becomes a god. You can only serve one god.
It easily can become an idol. It easily can. Absolutely. So Dave gives a couple of examples in his last series in Financial Peace. He talks about a pond, right? So ponds that have water that flow into them with no water flowing out. What grows on the top of a pond with no moving water?
Scum.
Scum! Pond scum! That's basically what happens when money flows into your life and none of it goes out into the kingdom. Right? Do you want to be scummy? No! No one wants to be scummy. But do you guys know people who are? You talk to them and then you're kind of like, I mean, even in nursing, right? Even out of like the blood and the guts and stuff, you talk to somebody and you just kind of feel like, ugh, that person is just not a good person. I'm not inviting them into my life. Maybe to church on Sunday or to that. But we're not going to do a lot of, I'm taking things that you're doing and modeling them in my life. Right? Does that make sense? So why do you think Jesus talked about this? Anything else? Okay, I guess we did a pretty good job talking that one over. Yeah, I think it was exactly right. If we start serving money when we think it's ours, right? It's not, I get to keep 90 and he gets to keep 10. Like, you're welcome, God. Like, come on. He doesn't need my money, right? What he needs are people that are sold out and following Jesus. Right? If he wanted something to happen, he can make that happen. I love that story of Joseph, right? He's in the dungeon, and then he's the governor. He's like the second in command. The only person higher than him is Pharaoh. I always wonder, is there a possibility that I'll go to jail and then later I'll get to be It's such a drastic
Vice
thing.
President.
Can't be in jail. Probably not at the same time, right? No. Or is that like an automatic disqualification?
It's an automatic disqualification.
Well, okay, but I'm sure God can figure that out if he really wanted me to do both, right? Do my best to stay out of jail and do my best to stay out of being a president.
Nelson Mandela did it.
There you go.
He's in Africa.
Okay, so what is a tithe? I already have the answer on the screen. Everybody should get this one right. It's 10%. Because some people go, I'm going to start tithing at like $10 a month. Okay, but unless it's $100, it can't be 10% and $10, right? Are you following me on the math? Yes. Yeah. But if we have a different perspective of if it's all God's and he owns it all, and I get the opportunity to manage it for him, the big thing that happens is that we become owners instead of stewards. Right? Stewards is, we talk about that, that's like something that my wife watches on Downton Abbey or some like period film. Is anybody following any of that? Yeah.
Downton Abbey.
Downton Abbey.
They're making a movie! Right here! But in our culture in the United States, we don't really get like the lords and the stewards and so the king, right? He's got all kinds of land that they're farming. They're farming those sheep for the king, right? The king gets a cut of all of that. And the second biggest house in the area, who do you think that was? It was the steward. The guy who, on behalf of the king, goes around and says, this is what's happening with the sheep. This is what's happening with the crops. He had the most important job, same way that Joseph did in that story. I think I'm starting to lose you guys, right? Like, man, this guy's been talking forever. When is he going to be done? Don't worry, we almost are. So a lot of people say, hey, when I win the lottery, woo! Then I'll give some money. What do you think actually happens? Oh, wait a minute, I put it on there. 70% of lottery winners go bankrupt. How many people like professional sports? Show of hands. Yeah? What's the average football player, like the minimum football player make?
The minimum is
The league minimum.
420,000.
$420,000 in 1 year. Pretty good to sit on the bench, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think I'm probably a little old and not big enough, so I don't think I'm gonna get that job.
Can we subtract medical bills?
Likely to be a few, right? Okay, so what about those star quarterbacks? We hear about their contracts. What kind of money are these people making? 13 million? 24 million?
Mike?
24 million.
$24 million in 1 year as long as they don't get hurt, right? Do you know how many professional athletes go bankrupt? I mean, there are a lot of incredibly talented athletes that don't get what we're talking about tonight. Nobody's explained this stuff to them. And so piles of money start showing up, and they buy a bunch of houses, they buy a bunch of cars, they have big fancy parties, and then they have nothing. And then they have no friends because they were hanging around to drive their car or hanging out at their big house, and then they're left with basically nothing. And so my challenge to you is that as you learn and you grow, make giving